Welcome back to the outside. Wait, I screwed up again, Tate. That's two weeks in a row. I almost did it again. Welcome back to the Outer Regions podcast, the show now with a name where no fucks are given because we are back entering a new decade with this final episode in 2019.
We're doing a New Year's Day specialty where we're gonna rank our favorite movies of the year. I have not brought this idea up to Ross, but I totally forgot. We promised we'd do an MGF podcast Oscars like 3 months ago, and the end of the year is in 2 days.
I forgot.
So, Ross, are you free on January 1st?
To do that, I mean, I don't see why not.
All right. Well, I might be free a little later in the day, so.
Alrighty.
Fuck it.
Maybe there's gonna be an Oscars episode for this show, whatever that means or entails.
We promised it. I totally forgot, man.
Honestly, I forgot so completely that it's news to me. But The Mandalorian finally wrapped up its first season.
Yes,
Season 1 of the series, the first live-action Star Wars series, is complete. And as expected, the 8 episodes completely blew by after the November debut.
Dude, no, that sucked. I mean, every episode except for one, consistently fucking amazing. And for that to be gone for, 8 months? Dude.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm so used to Netflix shows and the Netflix format of getting all of it at once and then it being gone for a year. So it's really not anything new, but having it every week has been nice. It has created something to look forward to. And I mean, that's really certainly, I think, as far as television has been missing from my life, really since the CW shows turned to utter dog shit. There hasn't been that weekly entertainment to look forward to or weekly story to look forward to. And so The Mandalorian obviously really scratched that itch.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, man, standing there in Chicago and watching them talk about this, that the Mandalorian was really hyped up to be something truly special that really brought in all the best elements of Star Wars and had something in it for every Star Wars fan. And they were not lying. I mean, the show absolutely delivered on everything they promised, aside from 2 episodes. But overall, 6 of these 8 episodes were just absolutely fantastic for the most part. And this has just truly been, just a huge treat for every Star Wars fan. I mean, this has been incredible. And I mean, the wild card elements of Baby Yoda being so great, and Moff Gideon at the end, or IG-11 being unexpectedly good, or Cara Dune, Gina Carano's performance being so fantastic, or the involvement of the Mandalorians in episode 3, and then the finale. There's just so much to love all throughout this first high-budget Star Wars series that I really can't wait to rewatch the 6 episodes that really comprise the majority of the story.
What is the one besides 5 that you dislike, my guy?
So it's chapter 6, but I like chapter 6, right? I would gladly rewatch it, but it's just so completely irrelevant to the main story that you can absolutely watch The Mandalorian chapter 1 through 4, skip the utter crap dog shit episode that is chapter 5, and then just watch chapter 7 and 8, and you have the whole story right there. The Mandalorian season 1, like the story is chapters 1 through 4, and then 7 and 8, the 2-part finale.
Someone called episode 4 a filler episode, and I was like, that's Cara Dune's entire introduction.
Right? Yeah. So you really can't call. I love chapter 4 because of her. I mean, her debut, she's
God, that was so strong.
What a character! I was hoping Gina Carano was going to deliver a really cool character with Cara Dune, and she 100% does. I mean, absolutely love her in this series. Just so cool, getting a rebel shock trooper. You've never had that perspective of a rebel who has dropped into Imperial lines, wiping out the remnants. Yeah, exactly. Rebel Special Forces. It's freaking cool. She's great. And she was great in episode 4. She was even better in episodes 7 and 8.
Oh, dude.
Um,
I'm gonna say right now,
yeah.
I mean, I just think the performances are so much better in 7 than they are in 8. But really great in 8 as well.
I personally didn't really take an issue with any of the performances in episode 8.
I didn't take an issue with them at all. I just thought episode 7 was so strong, Ross. It's insane how good that episode is. I rewatched it today, actually, while I was at work. And episode 7 really rides close to episode 3, man. I mean, Deborah Chow was going to knock Obi-Wan out of the water.
I mean, her 2 episodes, chapter 3 and 7, just stick out as just being completely phenomenal and just stand amongst the rest. And just, they are the most distinct, right? I mean, I consider Rick Famuyiwa's contributions, his 2 episodes like chapter 2 and 6 to be good, but they're not Deborah Chow's episodes, right?
Yeah.
There is an essence to Deborah Chow's directing style that just comes through in chapters 3 and 7 that just does not exist in the rest of the season. I mean, she did a fantastic job. It's hard to describe. It just feels like a major overall quality increase with both of her episodes. And I don't know if that's because of the story picking up or what.
No,
but
it's her style. I'm watching episode 8 and I'm just saying to myself, and kind of like what I did with Endgame, I was like, wow, the build up to this was so much better. And now I think that's
episode 7 was structured better than 8.
Yeah,
I will say that.
I think I dislike episode 8 so much because it follows episode 7. Episode 7 just has this dark, gritty, frustrating tone that I feel like episode 8 doesn't carry over very well. We'll talk about that with spoilers, but dude, episode 7, I can't stop praising that episode. I mean, oh my lord, Ross. I mean, it's really the perfect episode. Episode 3 and 7.
After being so frustrated with how god awful episode 5 was, we talked about it. I'm still so disappointed in Dave on that one. I cannot believe how bad that was. But then chapter 6, not pertaining to the story at all, my hype for The Mandalorian died with those 2 episodes, man. I mean, I was going into these episodes now with a lot of caution instead of optimism. I mean, I'm naturally a pretty cynical guy, so
yeah, Ross, pretty pessimistic.
So going into seeing episode 7 and 8 completely turn that around for the finale and just deliver 2 back-to-back excellent episodes, and the first one being helmed by Deborah Chow. I mean, I really was just so happy to finally have the full cast together. Now, we talked about this previously that, you referred to it as being sort of the ensemble cast. And to me, an ensemble is when you have more than the main cast. And to me, especially standing in the room when they're all there in front of us and Jon Favreau is saying, this is the cast. Here's Pedro Pascal, Carl Weathers, Gina Carano, Nick Nolte's going to be an Ugnaught. This is the cast. While it was good, the dynamic between Mandalorian and Baby Yoda consistently all the way through, man, when you finally arrive at chapter 7 and they are all together, the show just comes alive in ways that it just simply was not throughout the initial episodes, which is fine, right? I understand. You don't have to rush anything. That's not what these shows are about. You don't have to rush into getting them all together because maybe season 2, they'll spend all of it together. That's fine. The one through line that these shows, I think any show needs to have, is even if you do a filler episode, the story needs to move forward.
Like episode 2. Episode 2 is the perfect example of that.
Right. Exactly. I mean, episode 2 is the perfect example of that because you have the reveal of, at the end of that episode. And so the point is, if you do filler episodes, you need to have some tangible story development to make the episode relevant to the series. And man, it was just. So while all of that, so that's fine to have smaller episodes where not a lot happens, and then you just have the smaller bite-sized chunks of story developments like in episode 2. that's what you need. But then I also think having a full cast is going to be important going forward. Now that they have given us the full team, given us the full dynamic, I don't know that I really want to go back to just Mando and Baby Yoda in season 2.
Which,
for like
yeah.
another set of episodes. Like, let's say the next season, 8 more episodes. Let's say they spend 4 of those, and it's just 5 of those episodes, and it's just Baby Yoda and Mando again. And it's like, there's just so much more to do. And they prove that with episodes 7 and 8. So I'm really hoping Cara Dune sticks around. I'm really hoping Carl Weathers has some overarching presence in the series, similar to like Hondo Naka, right? In the Clone Wars, the guy was always there.
Yeah.
They're just a recurring presence that always makes the show feel complete. Because to me, when the cast is assembled like this, only then does the show feel complete, because they all work so well together. And I really just...
I think we need to move into spoilers so we can talk the extent of the cast chemistry. So if you have not seen the Mando season 1 finale, episode 8, Redemption, right, is what it's called?
Yeah.
Then click off right now. We will be putting up the new graphic in 3, 2, 1. The Mandalorian dies at the end of this episode. Isn't that insane? I was not expecting... No, guys, I'm just kidding. Come on, get real. Ross, I need to talk about how much I like this episode and why it just didn't fulfill me. Ross, we have the Death Watch reveal. Oh my god, are you kidding me? That was insane. Right, with the Mando backstory.
I was wondering how the flashback sequence was going to come together. I was surprised they just kind of laid it all out in one scene, but it worked really well.
It worked. So that was great. The chemistry was great. The action in this episode was phenomenal. But
I mean, my god.
What holds the episode down to me is first impressions mean a lot to me. Because they really set the scene, and that scout trooper thing just hurt it so bad. And then you have the Mandalorian being melodramatic to IG-11 when he's dying, and IG-11 takes out his helmet, and that's just wrapped up immediately. And dude, just the exposition dump when he's talking to what's the forger's name? The Mandalorian forger?
Wheel? No. Just the only name we have for her is the Armorer.
The Armorer. So the Armorer gives him that dump of, you have to protect Baby Yoda. And I know that that's necessary. I know it is. But for that to be in the finale to just directly set up the rest of the series frustrates me a little bit. And there are just certain things like Baby Yoda makes a lot of weird baby noises that really irked me, and there was some...
Dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I thought it was fine.
Dude, I don't know
when
why
you were texting me about this episode,
much.
You texted me about the episode Friday morning before I watched it.
Yeah.
So I knew this Scout Trooper scene was coming. I was looking for the Baby Yoda crying sounds. And the way you were describing it, I thought they were just going to be like straight up baby noises.
They were straight up baby noises, Ron.
They were. They really were. They sounded pretty natural.
Okay, I want to say this though. I want to say this. Baby Yoda, like throughout the series, he had a very, very nuanced, very quiet little baby noises, and in this one,
but he also wasn't on a speeder bike with IG-11 in full combat.
Oh, dude, I don't know. I mean, he's
it's a little more excitement for him.
I don't. It just bugged me, man. It just got on my nerves. But there's so much to like about this episode. I want to say this right now. I don't hate this episode. I think this episode is a knock out of the park, right? It's a ballpark episode.
You just hate Star Wars.
But I rated it my second to least favorite episode because to me, it didn't wrap up the series in a satisfying way. And by that, I mean the Moff Gideon thing at the end. That is the best scene maybe in the entire series. That was incredible. The TIE Fighter, dude.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
So I think you're a maniac.
Ross, I'm going to be honest with you when I say this. I don't know why I dislike it so much, man.
I'm genuinely trying to figure that out too.
The Scout Trooper thing just like threw off the episode, and then I just had nitpicks because I love Taika Waititi's directorial style for comedies. And I feel like that comes through in a little bit of the framing here in this episode, when in the last episode everything was so serious and so macabre, and to me it felt like Endgame, right? And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but I hate Endgame now. I like give Endgame a 4 out of 10, dude. I do not like that movie. The final battle's the only reason why I rewatched it.
Endgame definitely does not age too well.
No.
But that's okay. I'm still working on figures for it. So
for me, this is the Endgame of Mandalorian, but this is far better than Endgame was. I give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. This is a B+. I loved this episode. But I didn't love it as much as the rest of the series, man. Except for 5. So, that episode's so bad.
Let's talk about the Scout Trooper scene for a second.
Yes.
The Scout Trooper scene, when you were describing it to me through text before I even watched the episode, and the rest, I'm like, oh crap, here we go. They're bringing in Taika Waititi. He's just gonna apply all of his Thor Ragnarok tropes to the entire episode, and it's just gonna be a Taika Waititi. I mean, just like shitfest the whole way through, where he's just given the reins to do whatever, regardless of what has been going on in the series. I really thought this was going to be bad. So I'm going into this episode with preconceived notions, like I got to sit through a 4-minute shitty Scout Trooper scene, and the whole finale is going to disappoint, just like Chapter 5 or Chapter 6. So I'm like, okay. But then and listen, I'll be honest, the Scout Trooper scene can just be pulled out.
Oh, 100%. 190%.
It can just be pulled out and thrown in the extras tab, and we're fine.
Just have just open the scene with IG-11, and then the scene makes sense, you know?
It does serve as sort of a solid little calm before the storm, though. And so I was watching it, and I was like, if there is a single more scene like this, I'm going to have a problem. If we see anything like this, even remotely close to this shit, throughout the rest, I'm going to be out.
There really wasn't anything like that in the rest of the episode.
No, and so this bizarre, prolonged 4-minute chilling out comedic Scout Trooper scene where they're literally punching Baby Yoda. I mean, my God. Once it's done and IG-11 shows up and just kills the two of them and takes the speed, there's nothing like that for the rest of the episode.
There's really not. I will agree with you 100%.
At all.
There's nothing close to that.
It completely gets right back on track, 100%, and the finale is just fantastic through until the end. So I don't mind. I mean, it sort of creates a nice little breather, and then you get right back to it. Does it need to be there? Do we need that breather? No. Like you said, you can absolutely just cut to IG-11, walking up to them and being like, and just killing them and give me Baby Yoda.
So, Ross, what frustrates me so much about that breather is we get that breather for the entire first half of episode 7.
Yeah.
We get that calm before the storm. And now I think, I will say this right now, this is something I did not add. I think this episode really suffers from TV show syndrome. And by that, I mean they had to set up this series. They had to set up their antagonist, because we got, 30 seconds, not even, of Moff Gideon in the episode prior. They had to set up the Mandalorian's relationship with Baby Yoda and what to do with him. Mm-hmm. They had to do a lot of setting up. And I wish something like this was the 6th episode or something. I don't know.
I'll be honest with you, man. That's what I was looking for with The Mandalorian, too. Like, I was fully expecting something like this to be episode 6 as well. And that the finale would be something bigger. But I'm okay with how it's gone down. I mean, again, episode 5 is pretty unforgivable. That was a travesty. But then chapter 6, not contributing to the story at all, but still being a good episode. That's at least somewhat, that's still acceptable, of course. But this being the finale, I'm okay with. Like, I can wait until the end of 2020 to continue with this story. These 6 episodes are more than enough to enjoy and bite down on for a long while, I think. And what I really appreciated the most of chapters 7 and now 8 here is just, again, the dynamic between the main cast now, and how they left no stone unturned for their arcs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, our Mandalorian, now named Din Djarin, he's got
badass fucking name, dude. Oh my god.
So apparently Pedro Pascal said it in an interview like many weeks ago, like when the series was first starting out, and thankfully I didn't hear it. So I got to hear it for the first time in that scene. I was like,
same here.
That is a cool name.
That is such a Mando name, dude. It's such a freaking Mando name.
I love it. Absolutely love the name. Din Djarin. Perfect. It's just so Star Wars. I mean, I love that.
Star Wars, exactly.
And then, yeah, his entire arc with kind of having to get out of this situation, but then also coming to terms with how he feels about droids and his past to a certain extent, and what he now has to do going forward. I was really I thought that was great. He had a lot for his character in these 2 episodes, and then Cara Dune, obviously, kind of breaking out of her cautious rebel shock trooper mentality to help them through this situation and maybe be part of something again. And Carl Weathers also sort of abandoning comic relief, of course.
Comic relief, dude. That was the most Taika Waititi part of the episode besides the opening. I will say that.
And then, but abandoning his own ways as well, because of the miracle that Baby Yoda performed on him that really woke him up from this mayhem that he's been living with the guild and just not caring about anything. These characters all experience complete arcs in chapters 7 and 8.
Yeah.
I mean, it is these 2 episodes are the complete antithesis of episodes 2, 5, 6, even 4 to an extent. And this is the show that I signed up for, right? This is the show we were promised. I hope that they can maintain more momentum going forward, just from a narrative perspective and just from a character perspective, because man, are these characters so great, and man, do I love these characters, and my God, are the actors so great in these roles.
No one can play these characters better.
I mean,
nobody. Pedro Pascal's voice is perfect.
I love these people. I love this cast. I love the people working on this series. I mean, Jon Favreau, of course, Dave Filoni, the man. The guy Ludwig, who of course is the brilliant composer. I mean, and then of course Deborah Chow and everybody. I mean, Christopher Yost. I mean, you've got Rick Famuyiwa doing a great couple episodes. This series had more downs than I was hoping for in season 1, but overall they proved what they initially set out to do, which of course was to develop this incredible first live action Star Wars series, and it's exceptional. All of this has been exceptional. I absolutely loved the additional screen time we had through episode 7 and 8 with IG-11. I absolutely loved what they did with his character. I loved how much more screen time we got with him. So when he finally destroys himself, I felt more than satisfied with him leading the show. And I guess to just kind of cut back to the flashback sequence, man, I was wondering where all those extra flashback shots were going to come in. Where were we going to see those final shots? And obviously they piled them all into one final sequence where they put them all together. And dude, Tate, I love that flashback sequence. Oh my God. Showing what happened to Din's parents. I mean, that's one thing that's always so missing from Star Wars. Whenever you're in these galactic conflicts, you're always seeing them from the perspective of the Jedi or the Sith or the clones or the Separatists or the Rebels or the Empire, and you're never seeing them from the perspective of civilians. You only really get that in new canon novels, where, like, for instance, Galen Erso's on a planet and he's trying to get Jyn and Lyra to safety while clones and droids are fighting in the streets. And so getting it live action here is just really great, because of course we know the Clone Wars, we've seen the series, we've seen the prequels, but getting to see what it's like we talked about this and seeing in full in this sequence where the super battle droids are charging down the streets, just killing every innocent person in this village. I mean, is just incredible, and you get to see it from that horrific experience from the perspective of innocents and the civilians who you only see in the background normally, and it's just so powerful. And the people who play the parents do so well in that flashback sequence. You don't even hear their voices. You don't even hear them. You just see the emotion and the range of that conveyed on their faces.
How can we not get that from Ray's parents? I mean, Ray's parents were fine. They were only there for a second, all right? But come on.
And then when the Death Watch descend.
Dude, oh my god. Okay, Ross, I'm sorry to cut you off, dude. No, sure. I just watched Clone Wars. I just watched the whole, Maul taking over Mandalore arc. Mm-hmm. Dude, Death Watch is always framed as ruthless, even though they're patriots. They're patriots.
But to Din, they're his heroes.
What's up? But yeah, exactly.
To him, they were heroes.
To him, they were heroes. It shows that they stuck true to the Mandalorian core values, despite being this terrorist group. I think that was such an interesting perspective to get. I mean, they could have made those faceless... they are technically faceless Mandalorians. But they could have made that, generic Mandalorians, like from that battle pack that we just got. But,
you know what I love? You know what I love about the Death Watch and how they appear live action? By the way, I'm so happy that I'm even exclaiming those words. That makes me very excited. We get that we have officially seen the Death Watch live action now.
That's so sick.
It's so cool because the costumes and the blues are totally different on their costumes. So they have different rifles that they're using. They're similar to E11s, kind of like an earlier model, and they've got rangefinders and a different blue color scheme. And they almost seem like an advanced squad that Vizsla sent out. While the main plot is unfolding on Mandalore and uprooting the pacifist Mandalorian government, I like to think Vizsla sends out a specific detachment of Death Watch members to go do specific things. And that's what was happening on this planet. And that's when they picked up Din. And I also like to think that, I'm just making up headcanon, and I just think it's fun to do because it works to some extent, that they didn't have time for foundlings, right? They didn't have enough. They didn't have, there were too few numbers in the Death Watch to be training a lot of foundlings. So maybe Din was then sent off to another Mandalorian clan, and those were the ones that you see with the armorer that sort of worship, not really worship, but sort of abide by the original Mandalore, the original way of the Mandalore, and not removing their helmets, because of course the main Death Watch did not follow that doctrine at all. So I just love it, man.
Yeah, and then
because they don't break canon by doing this.
No,
and it's just incredible.
Let me include as well. When we're getting this expositionary dump, this call to action with the armorer, she starts talking about different legions. The Phoenix Legion. You train with the Phoenix Legion, right? So I prescribe, that's not the right word. I subscribe to the belief that foundlings are kind of passed around the factions, passed around the legions, training 100%. With different legions until they're old enough to, come into their own. They either join a legion like Death Watch or Phoenix. We hear Phoenix name dropped in this, or they go, fuck off and become a bounty hunter like Armando did. You know what? I feel so liberated. I feel so liberated that we're off the brand, because Russ, we've used expletives so much this episode, and it just does not matter now. Anyway.
Oh yeah, no, I don't give a fuck.
Sidetrack over. But I just love the idea that these children, that these young warriors are passed around the Mandalorian religion, right?
Right.
Almost to different churches. To learn more things, to learn how to do certain things. And that's why they're such complex warriors. It's like going to a place. So okay, in my own life, I went to Costa Rica for an entire 6 weeks last year. I came back home speaking Spanish. Is that perfect Spanish? No, but it's a hell of a lot better than I, went there to learn, or than I had before I went there, right? So kind of applying that to Star Wars, maybe you don't know how to use a jetpack, they ship you off to Phoenix, and then you know how to use a jetpack in a month. That is so freaking cool.
And it further enriches the Clone Wars era just to 100%. Know that the Death Watch had other things going on despite the main operation on Concordia and Mandalore with Dooku and the Separatists to take back power. And who knows at what point in the war that actually happened. But the main and that's what I really appreciated too, is all these inclusions did not step on the toes of anything in the canon, in the main storyline. So for instance, let's just talk about Moff Gideon for a second.
Oh my god.
Moff Gideon, when he shows up, man, Of course, they cast Giancarlo Esposito to play the villain who does not fuck around. This is the guy who cannot be stopped, who just knows exactly what he's doing from any given moment to the next, and is just a fully hardened Imperial, security bureau general who just completely is determined to act in his own self-interest and further his own goals and plans. And so when he shows up, man, and he lays down the ultimatums, he simplifies everything and just says, "You betrayed us. We will happily betray you and I'll kill you with my own hands." Giancarlo Esposito knows how to make you afraid. And in everything that I have seen, in not just Breaking Bad, but other shows that he's done like Revolution, the guy knows how to make you fear him. He is in the shoes of a villain. And so when he just walks into this major battle going on between the main cast and all these stormtroopers, which, by the way, a lot of those stormtroopers are actual fans in 501st.
Yeah, those are 501st. How rad is that?
Very cool. And he just shows up totally not afraid. The Mandalorian, they're all wiping out stormtroopers in droves. He picks up that E11. I mean, he's killing Death Troopers, and Moff Gideon just walks right up and just, without fear, destroys the E-Web and takes out Mando with a couple shots. I mean, this guy thinks on his feet. This guy is terrifying. And so when you get to the end, and his TIE fighter's taken out by Mando, and he cuts his way out with the Darksaber, because he had already spoken of Mandalore, and he knew Din Djarin was clearly led the assault and the retribution against the Mandalorians after their rebellion in Star Wars Rebels. You believe him. And that was so important to me. Yeah. Because if a character is going to pull out a weapon like the Darksaber, you better believe
that he's worthy of it, number one, and that number two,
that he earned it, that it would make sense that he would have acquired it. And to me, with Giancarlo Esposito playing a brilliant member of the original Imperial Security Bureau, Moff Gideon, I fully believe in him, and that after Star Wars Rebels, he was sent in to wipe out the Mandalorians, and that he did it successfully, to where now the Mandalorians call it, what was it? The Night of 1,000 Tears. They named it. They freaking named the event. They call it the Mandalorian Purge. They are now hiding in sewers on backwater worlds because of Moff Gideon. And I believe him. I believe that he did it, right? And Giancarlo Esposito conveys that with so few lines.
Oh, he
conveys it with just his presence.
I want to add something. This character is extremely intimidating without any air of aggression. And Ross, I'm sorry to bring it up again, but the Scout Trooper scene discounts his character by making a joke out of his actions.
I suppose
they call in and they say something, and then they say, "Since you interrupted, he killed the guy who."
Dude, this Scout Trooper scene just ruined the whole friggin' thing for you, didn't it?
Dude, Ross.
I was able to get past it as soon as it ended because nothing like it ever happened again.
First impressions really get to me, and then I saw. So Ross, since I watch so much film, I get really in tune to directorial styles, and Taika Waititi, it's just everything is so goofy and melodramatic.
Yeah, no, I mean that could have been cut. It didn't ruin it for me, but it would have if that crap persisted.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, this character is extremely intimidating, so believable. I mean, you believe that this is the guy that took down Mandalore. You really do.
So much so that when he blows up the E-Web and sends shrapnel into Din Djarin's head, I mean, I was like, oh shit, maybe he is actually going to die, and now this is going to become Gina Carano's show. I mean, for a second, I actually considered it, because that is the presence his character creates.
Yeah,
and immediately. And but no, man, I mean that moment where after Baby Yoda takes out the Flame Trooper, that incredible sequence, and then he's having to come to terms with the fact that he has to remove his helmet, and that it's going to be done by a droid no less, and he's having to face the reality that the helmet does need to come off or he's going to die. He has to abandon his religion to a certain extent and allow this non-living thing, this droid, to heal him and to help him. It was a powerful scene, man. It just took their dynamic from episode 1 and completely brought it full circle.
Ross.
In the best possible way.
I hated that scene so much.
Why did you hate that scene?
It was so melodramatic, dude.
What?
It was so
What? What?
Kara,
It was fine.
I'm dying. I'm dying. Take the kid. I'm dying.
What do you want? What do you want? It was fine.
I'm dying.
What did you want?
Dude,
He had shrapnel in his neck and he was
Ross.
done. What did you want?
Ross.
Yeah.
He said, I'm dying, take the kid for 2 minutes straight. I was like, dude.
What would you say?
I wouldn't put the scene in for 2 minutes. I would have had some sort of nuance. Okay, now if I were to improve that scene, I would have had Manto fight off a few bad guys, and then have him return to the group, dying breath. Then IG-11 removes his helmet and heals him. I felt like he needed some sort of reason to feel like he's sacrificing himself as opposed to him just lying there. It was really frustrating.
I thought it was. I really don't agree. I mean,
yeah, but you're not a Star Wars fan. You're not a Star Wars
I thought it worked just fine. I mean, I also thought it was somewhat real because I mean, this show kind of focuses a bit more on that grid, right? On that more
right, exactly. That's why I was thinking something a little bit more in line with what we were saying. You know, I think it worked. I really wanted to see Mando crawling through these sewer tunnels, man.
When the helmet is revealed, like when the helmet is revealed to once his face is revealed, once the helmet's off.
Dude, he looks so out of place. I'm sorry.
No, I was just like, no, I mean, I'm just saying it wasn't as big of a moment to me. Because it's
yeah, exactly.
Yep, it's just Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, like, dude, I'm sorry. It looks so goofy. Like we don't see Pedro Pascal running around gunslinging, so it's just, to me, it's like seeing. How do I say this?
There just wasn't anything shocking, right? He wasn't missing an eye. He wasn't. He didn't have like major scars. It was just Pedro. That's fine.
It's just like, imagine, guys. You know exactly who Ross is. Then Ross plays a character with a mask. And then as soon as he's revealed, it's just the same lighthearted Ross that you know from the podcast and from the main channel.
Yeah, they really didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't really add anything around that mystery. It just is Pedro Pascal under there. And that's fine. I was just expecting like a scar or just like something that would kind of make that moment a little bit more gripping, I suppose. But speaking of the sewers, man, when he's walking around down there after that, and
the reveal that it's sewers, that the Mandos are in sewers, right. That was cool.
But the pile of Mandalorian armor, dude, what a bummer! God, that all the Mandos from Chapter 3, the majority of them didn't make it off.
Dude, Paz Vizsla's 100% alive.
Oh, I agree. I think if any of she even said a few of them made it off. But that being said, man, I found myself kind of questioning that, even though it was a really powerful moment, because I was like, these are Mandalorians. They can fight off stormtroopers, and Moff Gideon didn't have that many.
Yeah.
So, what? A battalion of 20 Mandalorians should be able to take out 100 stormtroopers with ease.
Maybe
so I found myself kind of doubting that. Like, I don't think that many of them would have been killed. I really don't. I thought that was strange.
No, I thought that it shows, holy shit, he's got his own, he's got his own legion. He's got 500 stormtroopers. Was kind of my idea there.
I mean, but it seemed like he had more, or maybe there were more, and the Mandalorians did take out a lot of them, and we're just seeing what Moff Gideon has left. I was just like, I don't think that many of the Mandalorians would have died. But I guess. And, I actually had the Darksaber thing spoiled for me.
Dude, so that sucks.
I was half expecting Bo-Katan to be the armorer, using like a voice modulator or something.
Mm-hmm.
and she was just gonna pull it out and like give it to Mando or
Nah,
something.
she did, bro.
Um,
She did.
no, no. So
Bo-Katan 100% dead. She in the ground.
I no, I don't think she's dead.
I
I
think
really don't.
maybe she's
No,
the
because
boots. Hmm?
no, because we saw that tweet where Katie Sackhoff said
That's
she just signed
true.
on for something that's a big career high for her, and then Jon Favreau liked the tweet. I really think Bo-Katan is definitely going to show up at some point in the series. It makes sense. She is the overall leader of all Mandalorian clans. She is, and if they don't acknowledge her or recognize her as that, at the very least, publicly she is. And it makes total sense that in the show called The Mandalorian, that the head freaking Mandalorian actually shows up at some point, and maybe to reclaim the Darksaber. I think that would be cool. I would love that. I think Bo-Katan would really add a lot to the show. And unlike Ahsoka or Cad Bane or any other characters that even I love, that I would love to see live action that don't make any sense to come in, Bo-Katan 100% does. You can easily link her into the story.
Yeah. She makes a lot
Especially
more
after the
sense than
purge.
Boba Fett. That's for damn sure.
Exactly right, 100%. I mean, if we're being realistic, Bo-Katan makes the most sense out of any characters we want to see again, and so I really hope that that'll be the case. Um, but man, I love the Mandalorian chapter 8. I thought that this just really gave us enough to look forward to for season 2. We know that the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, the adventures continue. They will be, we'll see pick up with them again in season 2, whatever the story is going to be. We'll likely see Bo-Katan at some point, and now Moff Gideon is still out looking for them, and who knows how the story is going to develop from here. But the number one thing that I hope for, Tate, is that the cast is actually present for the vast majority of season 2.
You know what I really want?
I really want Carl Weathers and Gina Carano to be there for most of it. I really do.
I want episode 1. I want episode 1 to be kind of like a prison break kind of thing, because we are using motifs kind of with the series finale. We have the protecting the weak. We have the heist, right? Let's just go full circle with the criminal motifs. Let's do a prison break where Mando has to save Grief Karga and Cara Dune from the Imperial how do I word this? Them being on the planet. It has a word. Occupation. But then we're using this planet again, so then it's 4 episodes on this planet, which I don't think they would do.
Yeah, man, and I'm getting tired of the Earth planets. I hope they can get the budget to be a bit more creative going forward. I mean, the Earth-like planets are getting very old for Disney Star Wars very fast. I mean, we've talked about this at length. Enough is enough. They need to do something else, but I don't know that it'll happen because it's just too much money, and it would just be too many green screens to go to a place like Volusia or Umbara or someplace more exotic.
Dude, imagine though. What's the moon that Death Watch is stationed on? What's the moon called?
Concordia.
Concordia. Imagine live action Concordia. It's Earth-like.
Yeah, I mean, Concordia is pretty doable. It's actually fairly Earth-looking.
Yeah.
If you watch the Clone Wars, so
yeah.
I think that would be great. I mean, that's the home of the Mandalorians. It would make total sense to go there at some point. But yeah, man, no, I mean, I was blown away by Chapter 8. I mean, the big emotional, impactful scenes with each of the characters, all the arcs that each one of them have in just one episode. The introduction of Moff Gideon and the presence Giancarlo Esposito immediately brings to the series as the main villain is incredible. The action sequences are just phenomenal. IG-11's destruction scene is fantastic. I mean, the TIE fighter scene, like you highlighted for Moff Gideon, also really, really good when Mando finally uses the jump pack for the first time. That jetpack scene was great, despite the little problem you pointed out in there. Baby Yoda had sufficient screen time with his big moment against the Flame Trooper. Different little creative elements like the astromech droid standing on 2 legs.
That was so weird. That's a cursed image, dude.
It was great, man. It was so jarring. Because we've never seen anything like that before. It was just so unexpected.
Cursed image. God.
So yeah, man, I think that I'm looking forward to eventually sitting down and rewatching Mando season 1, chapter 1 through 4, and then 6,
Ross,
and then 7 and 8. Because
let's sit through it together, dude. I'm interested to watch it again. Let's do it together.
Yeah, no, for sure. We definitely should. So that being said, man,
We
I
gotta
think The
move on. I gotta
Mandalorian
go.
completely delivered on everything. Again, it was just chapters 5 and 6 that I hope we never get anything like again. Even though I like a lot of 6, it's just the big problem again with 6 was that the story didn't move forward at all. Even though it was an otherwise good episode. So yeah, man. Just a huge congratulations to everybody who worked on this series, especially Dave Filoni, getting to do his first directorial debut, and the cast for being so fantastic. Jon Favreau for being an absolute legend. I mean, um, I just hope that they can acknowledge the mistakes that were made with season 1, and then improve upon them to just have an absolutely incredible season 2. And
Yep.
I cannot wait to see what Deborah Chow does for Obi-Wan.
So, in closing, my kind of series overview is this is my favorite TV show. Definitively, this is. I've had more fun watching this TV show than any other TV show. Close second would be The Boys. That that was
Sure.
incredible. But
It was.
yeah, Ross special showcase came out.
Yeah, man. So I put up a mini Rise of Skywalker showcase. It was kind of an epiphany that I had about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I was like, "Oh shit, Rise of Skywalker is coming up really fast."
Guys, we were
So
playing Battlefront, and Ross just literally says, "Oh shit, Rise of Skywalker's in 2 weeks, or what was
I
it?
need to
In
make a
3 weeks?"
Ray.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I that day, or the day after, I immediately got to work, and I was actually able to hammer out like a lot of the work for getting the robes all cut up and glued in place, and all the fabric elements on and the 3D elements as well, like the straps and different things like that. Um, but the showcase is up on the channel. In these like last 10 minutes that we have on the show for tonight, I kind of wanted to just highlight a few things um,
Guys, to
that I
start
didn't really.
off, sorry,
Yeah.
Ross, sorry to interrupt, but
Mhm.
I am the Finn. Just to start off.
um, yeah, no. So a few things, like one thing I really wanted to expand upon was, of course, the hairpiece. The hairpiece is one thing that I think a lot of people, not really a lot of people, but some people definitely took issue with, um, because I kind of did something that I told everybody on Patreon that I was going to try to do. Because I was looking at the Force Awakens hairpiece, and because in Rise of Skywalker, Daisy Ridley's hairstyle with the buns, they're all higher up and tighter together, and it was just getting weird to me to not have those hair strands. So the hair strands on the sides of the hairpiece, and so I decided that I'd take a shot at sculpting them, and I didn't think it would work. And they were very fragile at first before I layered them up with thick paint and sealant and a myriad of other things. But once I did all the sculpting work there and with the buns and then painted over everything, it just wound up being exactly what I was hoping for. And I was able to make those hair strands look more seamless with the official Lego hairpiece than I was expecting. And a big part of that was also making it look like official Lego, because I don't think, and I really don't agree with just taking little bits of Procreate and just sticking them on the sides of the hairpiece and just being like, they're the hair strands. It looks bizarre. It's strange for a Lego minifigure. And so I tried to kind of find a middle ground there and kind of do something like that Lego might actually do with Rey's hairpiece. And so working on these Rise of Skywalker figures was fun, but I definitely made a couple of mistakes because one thing I definitely wanted to have time for was make her staff. I wish I had time to make her staff, but at the end of the day, I wanted to move on with my life. So I said no to that, and she doesn't really use it in the final act of the film anyway, so who cares? And it's one less accessory for me to have on my desk. Um, but then also, I went with too dark of a brown for all of the straps.
We
Like
played Battlefront, and
the
Ross just said, "Oh shit."
so like the the armband, the straps, the little gauntlet on that she has on the left. It was just I painted it all in this dark brown that I usually use, and I was like, shit, I needed to use normal brown, and it's too late, and it doesn't look that bad, and I honestly don't care, and
That's good,
I
man.
again wanted to move on with my life. Um,
You have Endgame
but
figures to make.
yeah, man, no, I mean, so one thing, a couple of things one thing I didn't mention in the main showcase was I actually for the gauntlet on the left of Rey's arm, I actually sculpted the glove top, which was something I've never done before, but something I thought was necessary here because I did it intentionally because tiny tactical glove tops kind of are wide. And so they rub up against the side of the torso, which, as a customizer, you always kind of want to try to avoid and mitigate paint that's rubbing up against anything. and so it definitely goes for the size of the torso, rubbing up against with the inner part of the arm. And so that was kind of an effort to sort of slim down that part of the arm, if that makes sense, to kind of keep it away from the side of the torso. And I think it worked pretty well. And also, you know, a big part of making Rey once again, and the reason I was able to make her fairly quickly, is because her costume overall really doesn't change from The Last Jedi. So she has differences. Like in The Last Jedi, her wraps go much higher up. She's got a different layout for a couple different things with the rags, and some very minor changes they made. But overall, it's the exact same costume in more ways than one. So I was able to just literally look at the figure that I did for The Last Jedi and just be like, okay, I'm going to do exactly that again, but just be very intentional about what I do and try to improve upon it wherever I can. And so that came in the form of just making more natural looking rags, like making the rags look more natural with how I cut them, how I shape them, how I place them, and just being more aware and conscious of certain things, like making the main rags with the wrinkles kind of stand out and be more yellowed amongst the rest of her white clothing, because that was a big deal for me. And I wound up painting it a very specific way, and didn't paint anything else until I made sure that I had the sort of dirtied up look on just the wrinkled rags specifically, so that I was then able to paint everything else. And so that basically came in the form of just like, once I had the robes on there and I painted all the wrinkles, I then applied that dirty wash to those rags that have the wrinkles painted on. All the fabric elements that have wrinkles, I applied this sort of like this yellowish white wash, and then got it all over the torso, got it on the waist cape a little bit, and then once it was on there, I was able to paint around it and cover up any signs of where that wash dripped on the rest of the figure, and kind of create a very distinct look that can really only be achieved with a sort of watered up, lightish tan paint. And another thing too that I didn't acknowledge in the showcase is that I skipped the holster. Right, the blaster holster does not fit, and it would have looked bizarre if it was just stuck on there, and it really wouldn't have worked, and it would have just looked a little unnatural. And as it is, I didn't want to make the figure any more fragile than it already is, because of course with fabric elements you still have to be careful. But a big thing that you'll notice if you look at the picture of Rey here, if you look on the right side of the figure that sort of has like those tan like strands painted on the main belt, you look at that specific part, those brown sections, those brown straps on the waist and then the one in the front are actually supposed to connect on the right side. But I decided to deliberately not have them connect, because one thing I did with The Last Jedi Rey was seal the figure together. So I stuck the figure together one day, took a fabric piece, and then glued it on the waist cape and on the torso. And so the figure was totally glued together from that point on. And I didn't like that. I always like to maintain my ability to disassemble my minifigures, and so I really try to maintain that here. And another big challenge when making Rey this time around was I had to paint the fleshy tone around her legs, and managing the thickness and the frustration that comes with working with white paints and thickish, like sort of thick fleshy paints is frustrating, right? And I managed to mitigate all of those effects and really make it look as smooth and as clean as I could. And I was able to use my buddy Aaron, Lego Magic Nine's Skywalker saber design once again, because I really feel like it looks Lego, and that's important to me to an extent to maintain that. And then just with the hood, that was really challenging, believe it or not. The different layers that comprise the fabric hood on the back was actually a pain to keep that looking consistent and accurate and layered properly and not misshapen and accurate. And it was definitely all very tedious. And the laces definitely added a little bit of time to the process on the shoes. But then on the other side of things with Kylo Ren, his costume literally does not change from The Last Jedi, and I still really like my Last Jedi Kylo Ren. And so I just said, hey, you know what? I don't have time to get a new helmet for my buddy Andrew, AV Figures, because the helmet is sculpted by the Mythosaur and then cast by Andrew from AV Figures. They did it back in like the end of 2017, early 2018. But there wasn't enough time to get another cast from Andrew. I had waited too long, and so I decided, okay, well, I'll just take the Last Jedi Kylo Ren, just paint the cracks on that painted helmet already, and it saved a lot of time, and it looks great. And originally I was thinking about going nuts and like engraving the cracks in place. And you know what? I was like, I don't care. I want to move on with my life. And they already looked really good painted on. And if you look at the cracks on Kylo Ren's helmet in The Rise of Skywalker, um, they're not that deeply engraved. They're pretty smooth cracks, believe it or not. And so I did my best to just sort of paint them on as accurately as I could using some 3D models for reference. And one little note, if you really look closely, is in the little rivets on the front of the helmet, you can see the red actually continue in between the little rivets above the space for the eyes. And that was a little important detail that I added last minute. And overall, this is all I really wanted to do. I'm considering maybe doing a quick Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian at some point soon. I don't know. Um, but considering The Rise of Skywalker is a massive film, I didn't want to go nuts. I didn't want to do a full assembly showcase. I didn't want to do the full ensemble. I still am more passionate about completing the Avengers Endgame project as we move into 2020. But Tate, that pretty much does it, man, I think, for our final podcast of 2019 before we cross over into the new decade, man.
Dude, that's awesome. I do have something to add.
Yeah.
To the showcase.
Mm-hmm.
My debut on the MGF. My debut on the MGF channel, guys. I'm officially on the main channel.
Yeah.
Where's my applause? Where's my applause?
If you watch the skit, Tate does this incredible Ben Kenobi and Yoda impression. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We both do amazing impressions. I mean, I'm looking forward to it because I'm actually considering posting separate skits. I wrote one today that I think I'm going to shoot like tomorrow and then post it on Tuesday and just post a separate skit and see what people think. I think it'll be fun to start to try that out, to sort of find new ways to maintain a more consistent flow of content as we move into 2020, because it's important to me to, despite what changes may come or what ramifications may come with COPPA, to still try to maintain a really solid presence on YouTube and always do my best on the platform, because 2019 certainly did not meet that standard, and 2019 was very rough for me personally, and I know for you, Tate, to some extent. So hopefully 2020 and 2020 will be better. I mean, 2019 got rough in so many areas that you can really go up. So I'm gonna definitely do my best to be better in 2020. The Avengers Endgame project not happening efficiently or quicker than I would have liked has been a huge disappointment for me personally. So I'm looking to expand upon all my shortcomings in 2019 and really get back on track in 2020 to forge ahead with the next 10 years of our lives, man. And so definitely check out Tate's Yoda and Ben Kenobi impressions in that skit in the Rise of Skywalker showcase. It's incredible. And, yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
what a decade.
What a decade. That is facts. That is true. Yeah. Ross and I were little baby boys at the beginning of the decade. Now we're big, healthy men. Look at us, Ross.
Sir. For better or for worse.
Well, let's hope for better. All right, guys. Well,
thank you so much for watching. Remember.
Oh man, I really hammed it up for those two impressions that I did. But guys, remember, happy holidays from the Outer Regions podcast, and this is most definitely the way. See you guys next year. I made the joke. I made the joke, Ross. You get it? See you next year. Yeah.